Okay, so welcome everybody. Anthony's playing some strange kind of music, and he's just itching for someone to recognize what it is, and I can't figure it out. Nadia, were you able to identify? I don't know what this is, but
Oh my gosh, I think I listened to that for about an hour on Monday.
Oh, maybe Jake, maybe you weren't watching the JWST live stream thing. You weren't in on this.
I missed the
Get After It fever as I yeah,
one, right?
Totally, yeah.
Okay, this is why I missed it. I was not privy to that one. I couldn't make it to that one. All right. Okay.
Yeah, we all listened to that for about an hour and a half. So.
Oh yeah. It was definitely lighting up Twitter.
What a jam! Get After It. Just
yeah.
It definitely has that sort of like hold music charm to it. That character of just kind of like, I'm not offensive. I'm just here, and I want you to know that you're here too.
But every time it would pause, everybody thought the event was going to start, and then the music started again. Mm-hmm. So it was like,
it wasn't a smooth loop. It was 2 minutes and then outro intro loop. So.
I mean,
Jake, you didn't even do the actual intro. Who are we talking to here, Jake?
No, we didn't.
You didn't do the
intro. Well, you derailed me, but so yes, we're here today with Nadia Drake from where are you freelance? Or, sorry, I know you write for Nat Geo a bunch of times, but what's your situation?
Yeah, I'm a contributing writer at National Geographic, where I do a lot of stories about astronomy, planetary science, space exploration. JWST this week. Mm-hmm, so yeah. And then I occasionally write stories for other publications as well right now. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Well, we've had you on the list for a while because we like your coverage a lot. So and we're trying to do the round and do like the whole space journalist landscape and get everybody on here. So we're really excited to have you today. We're going to talk about the James Webb Space Telescope. Big week for JWST, I guess. Is that an understatement?
It's kind of it was a little bit of an important week for that project.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. I think it's like...
Let's do some drinks before we get into it. So who wants to go first? Anthony, I saw yours, so maybe now you have to do it first.
Yeah. This is one that people have been telling me about for a little while. It's called Lawson's Sip of Sunshine IPA. Ooh. It's a Vermont one. I don't know. A lot of my friends have been digging these Lawsons, so gave it a shot. You can buy them in 4-packs of Tall Boys, which is kind of great. It's a reasonable amount of beer to put in your fridge.
4? Yeah.
Four Tall Boys, yeah. I gotta, not working with the biggest fridge in the world over here, so.
I mean, is that for like a night?
I'm not saying a frequency at which you can or cannot buy a 4-pack. It just is a reasonable amount. No one if they open your fridge and they see a 4-pack, they're like, yeah, it's a reasonable amount of beer. You know, they don't know that you buy one every day.
Sometimes twice a day.
Yeah, depending on the day, right? Yeah, okay. Nadia,
are you hitting the craft beer stores, Jake? Oh, I thought you were going to Alberta.
No.
Okay.
No, I'm no craft beer today. Do you want?
Okay,
okay, I'll go then. Okay, so I'm doing this is the Alberta special. I have to have this when I'm in Alberta. It's the drink that everyone is very confused about. So this is a paralyzer, and so if you're in Western Canada, you'll recognize this. And it is so a little bit of vodka on the bottom and Kahlua, okay, and then you fill it up with Coke and ice, and then you top it with milk. And this is the part that really screws people up because they're like, why would you ever put milk in alcohol? It's just going to curdle. But if you do it right, if you pour it right over the ice cube and slowly, it chills right and it won't curdle, just like this, which is a well done one. I did this one well. And then you get this kind of creamy, delicious coffee beverage. It's lovely. So cheers.
You said Coke.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. That threw me off. The Coke and the milk throws me off more than anything.
Yeah.
I'm kind of
it's very weird.
Very weird.
Yeah. Everyone outside of Western Canada thinks it's bizarre, and everyone inside Western Canada drinks them by the pitcher. So that's how it goes.
Yeah. Everyone's got their weird regional food, you know. I got scrapple and pork roll. People are like, why would that ever exist? So
those are valid questions.
Yeah. They're delicious. What do you got, Nadia? You got something fancy you're looking over there.
Yeah, well, so I have a backup over here because I actually spent way too much time.
Oh, that's your backup in frame. That's amazing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This is, well, I'll start with that. It would just be very off-brand for me not to have a bottle of champagne. But this is Off-Nominal. So I decided to go with a JWST teeny, which is here. It's red. I don't know if you can see, but I put a lot of gold dust in there.
Oh my lord.
That's incredible.
It's not toxic. And it's essentially, it's
better than beryllium, so.
Better than beryllium, yeah. It's a Boulevardier with gold dust, which I think sets it apart enough to make it a JWST. But
incredible.
Boulevardier is, equal parts Campari. I used a rye whiskey in here and sweet vermouth.
Wow.
Jake, this rivals your cocktail attempts that you've had.
I've been outdone today.
Yes, you have extensively.
Yes.
Yeah. Can you hold up your sad-looking one again, Jake? Because that thing looks depressing. Look at that. It's just like you scooped some mud out of the Alberta prairie.
This is just river sediment from the South Saskatchewan. That's all it is. So. Yeah.
Well, cheers. I got to give this guy a good sip before I dump it all over everything.
Yeah, you wouldn't want that. Then you'd have another JWST disaster. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's okay to drink gold, though. Don't they put gold in? Isn't Goldschlager also have gold flecks in it? Isn't that okay to drink?
I had been thinking about adding that, but I had a really bad experience with Goldschlager once, and so I haven't really been able to revisit it.
So. Yeah. Goldschlager sort of takes over the drink when you put it in there. So
yeah. I think I also just have like a reflexive bad reaction to it at this point. But yes,
that's how it goes. Yeah. So where do we want to start, Anthony?
Yeah, gold okay to drink, also okay to put on a telescope. Turns out.
Yes.
Turns out works out great on a telescope.
Yeah, I was watching the PBS documentary on it last night. It was like on cable TV, and my mom has cable, so I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna watch cable now." And then it was like on there, and they were saying that there's like 5 to 6 wedding bands worth of gold on the whole telescope. So it's actually not that much, believe it or not.
I was just gonna ask how many bottles of Goldschlager would it take to harvest enough gold to make another JWST, and apparently not that much.
Yeah, I think it's like 2 ounces or something. Yeah.
It's a very small amount, but. Anyway, that would be a fun experiment.
That's a different sector of YouTube. Yeah.
Thinking it through. Yeah. All right. We'll get back to that one.
All right. Who's got a favorite pick?
Ooh.
I got them all. I downloaded all these. They might break my even very powerful M1 Max CPU that I have here because they are gigantic image files. Do we want to just look at them? Where do we start with this? We want to do a little review of these images?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
What do you got? Anyone got anything on the deep field? You want me to zoom to a spot? Nadia, what's your favorite warped galaxy? Do you like the one that's actually like, is it this one that's the same galaxy? Did you read that blog post as well?
To the upper right of that? Yeah, I'm pointing to it, but you can't tell, but it's more arcy. Yeah,
this one?
That.
You like the archy one?
Super cool. Yeah, and I think that's also the same galaxy. What was really
it's the same as the other two, right?
That's wild.
I don't know that answer.
It's also these ones?
I mean,
I think so, isn't it? Isn't like the whole like black hole in the middle is just lensing them all around? That's what my assumption was when I heard the very short descriptions of it. But
yeah, I could
be wrong.
Yeah,
I like the amoeba looking one. So like
this guy right here.
Yeah, okay. That's my favorite. That's my favorite one in the whole thing right there. Look at that glorpy.
Because it retains enough detail. It retains enough detail so you still know that it's a galaxy. It's not just a little stretched piece of light. You can see the dust bands in there. Yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah.
This is a wild picture.
The ones. If you go to the upper right, there's a really bright red one.
That's really bright.
That guy. And I don't know if you saw some of the sliders that had a comparison with the Hubble image, where there was a slider where you could go back and forth and look at what Hubble had showed. And then this one, that galaxy pops out of nowhere in the JWST. It's like this not even
tweet showing.
It's not even there in Hubble's.
Did I pause this somehow? Yeah, I think it's this guy right here.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
No, I think it's...
No, this is different? Well, that one also does a good job.
That one too. Yeah, but the bright one in the upper right corner. And I saw a funny tweet go by about how we should be feeling bad for Hubble because it's being used like the before picture in a Botox.
Yeah, Hubble is now like your old iPhone when you're just like, damn, that camera sucked. You're like, now I gotta get the new iPhone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which one's Joe Biden's favorite? That's what I wanted to know.
Oh boy. Can we even know? Is there any way to know based on that?
I need you guys to fill me in on this event because I just did not catch it. I heard it was short, but like which one did he like?
Well, they only showed the deep field, but I bet if you asked him, he would say he loves them all equally, like his children. So on Monday,
that's a comedic minefield there, Nadia. So I'm just laying off. I'm laying off.
Just throwing that one out there. So on Monday, because you missed it, there was a big reveal at the White House of that deep field image, and it was initially scheduled for 5 p.m. and then we were told it was going to be 5:30. And then I think it started. When did it start? It was after like
6:06 or something. Yeah,
something like
it was
that.
later than the Elon event.
Yeah, exactly. And so everybody was bopping to that on hold music for an hour and change. And then the event lasted something like 11 minutes, and they presented the image, but there was no discussion of the science content. So it was kind of. And it ended very abruptly. It
ended abruptly and with the comment, I think now is a good time for the media to leave. It's
yeah.
like the comment that it ended on. There was nothing else beyond that. They were just shuffled everyone out of the room and apparently kept going.
Yeah.
It's very
it was very odd. And I felt bad. I felt like it was a missed opportunity to get some really cool science on a very, very big stage. And talk about what's actually in that image, the lensing effects, how that works, the galaxies that Hubble can't see. And then on Tuesday, they presented the fact that they have a spectrum from one of the old galaxies in there. And so you can tell how much, oxygen is in that particular galaxy. And it just felt like there was so much more that could have been done on Monday.
Yeah.
And I don't know what happened. I don't know.
Do you want a little bit of content from this, Jake? I have one clip from this press conference.
Okay, yeah, if you have a good clip, I'll take a look at it. I have a
clip just to maybe you could review the accuracy of this clip for us. So let me just
play it. Let's see it. Let's have a look.
Thomas Zurbuchen.
Is that how you pronounce his name?
No, it's not.
Do you need that again, Jake? I don't know. Maybe you need a little louder this time. Do you need that a little louder? Yeah.
Thomas Zurbuchen.
Yeah. Still. You tried.
That's like a level 1 pronunciation right there, man. That is really good.
My god.
Yeah. And the unfortunate part about that is you couldn't see Dr. Z's reaction because he was just a tiny box on the screen, and couldn't tell if he was really enjoying that or not. But yeah, it was a contentless press conference.
I mean, so the my interpretation of this was like it was very last minute because the other, like the main presentation on Tuesday morning had the deep field part of their presentation. So like you can tell that was already in the works. Like they were going to present all 5 and they had it all lined up in a row. And so this felt like very much like a globbed on, like, oh, it's working. The telescope's good. Let's get let's do our victory lap with this. Right. So I know
cynically you could say there was someone in the White House that went, does that smell like a cheap win? Does that smell like a cheap win? I need one of those.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, I guess it's good though because afterwards, I guess they hung around and had science talk with the president. So I guess that's a win, right?
For sure, and especially like if you want to go in on Nelson being the political administrator, right? Like these are the kind of things where it's good to put him in a room and do the politicking while you have the goodwill of this ridiculously amazing image for a project that was not without political strife for so long. Like that's a pretty happy ending to that.
Yeah. It was interesting. Someday I would love to know, the backstory of what actually happened. I think, there's probably some good stuff in there.
Just how that came together, right? Yeah.
Someone will write a good, juicy book about it eventually.
Yeah.
I would like to just talk about this image a little bit more for a second because I feel like I didn't get a great. There was so much talk about all the different images and all that, so maybe I just missed where this detail was. But Nadia, maybe you know, since you were in and around the team so much, of how this spot was chosen as the first deep field. Do you have any idea? Like, because it's a particularly interesting one in terms of like the gravitational lensing that's happening here, which gives it this crazy, like, I don't know, Salvador Dali kind of vibe to it.
Yeah, I think the lensing actually looks like someone like poked a finger into it and did a little swirl.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Like if it's a pool of water filled with sparkly stuff, it's just kind of like this cocktail. Yeah. I actually don't know how they picked that particular deep field. I know in general with the image selection criteria that they were using, they had more than somewhere around 70 possibilities, and the targets were selected for aesthetic appeal, political reasons as well. I think they were looking for spots that had been imaged before, so you could do a little bit of compare contrast, and obviously get some science out of it as well. And then once the telescope was actually able to start making observations, it was just a question of which of those objects were actually visible during the period that it would be making those observations, and then which of those 70 or so targets were not going to be part of the first year of science observations, so they didn't scoop any of the teams that had actually competed for time on the telescope.
Oh, it's interesting balance too.
Yeah, that's like actually a difficult needle to thread now that you think about it, right? Because so I read there was like this New York Times, I think, piece that I read this morning that had a little bit of behind the scenes on that. And so you're right. It was like 70 targets, but they had picked them back in like 2016 or something. They had the candidate list, but because the where the telescope is out at I can't remember all the L points, but it's like L2. past the moon. Okay, L2. So at any given time, because of the sun shield, only half the universe is visible to it, depending on how and you can yaw in different ways to get all of it. But the one half hemisphere is visible to you. So depending on when it actually flies, you have to down select based on what's,
and it's not even half, right? Because
it
can't point straight out. It's still got I forget what the maximum tip angle is, but it has to keep the mirror behind the sun shield.
Right.
So it's like a little bit of the direct out that's missing as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I guess you have to. If it was 6 months later, they wouldn't have been able to pick these 6, right? They would have been like, or these 5 would have been a whole different set.
Yeah, it would have been looking at a different part of the sky. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, it was funny because all of the targets that they ended up showing are actually in the southern sky, which I like to say is where all the really good stuff is anyway. It's like, I love our northern sky, don't get me wrong, but all of the really cool stuff is in the southern sky. So I thought that was funny too. But they will obviously be looking in the northern hemisphere as well.
Yeah.
I found these slider images, Nadia, for your favorite galaxy, because this is wild. I don't think I looked this closely at this, but so we're looking at Hubble here, and then there's that little red galaxy, and then, literally out of nowhere.
It's just gone, man. Wow.
Yeah, it's like out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we
really.
Still love you, Hubble.
Yeah, we do still love Hubble. Yeah.
It's just not as good anymore with the new features that are out there.
Wow,
people are asking in the chat. I saw somebody ask if the reason it's that red is like that, how red shifted it is, and it was just completely gone from Hubble's view, right? Yeah. As not shooting in the same spectrum.
Well, that would make sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I would assume that is true. Yeah, it's bonkers.
Yeah.
In a very good way.
That is like such a mind like melter for me, because like the telescope is infrared, so like all the light it picks up is light you can't see, and then they do like the crazy color shifting thing. So they say, okay, the lowest frequency that we can see in the infrared becomes violet or blue or whatever, and then the highest frequency becomes red, and so they just like map it over visible spectrum so you can actually see something, and like that's crazy to me, because then there's like this whole that article was talking about there's like now there's like a color palette. It's like an astrophysics color palette. It's like what you do when you map infrared over visible, and it's like so it's like this way that we think about what color the universe is, but it's not exactly true. It's just sort of the interpretation of our telescopes. And I don't know. I lay awake at night thinking about that. So.
Yeah, one of the scientists said at the press briefing that followed the unveiling of the images on Tuesday that if you had infrared eyes, this is what the sky would look like to you, because the colors are just corresponding to the wavelengths of infrared light. And then someone else made the crack. Well, yeah, but you'd have to have 6.5 meter big infrared eyes. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Okay.
This one,
Let's get to-
the Ring Nebula was maybe not my fave because Carina Nebula is tough to beat, but this one is, I don't know, spectacularly sci-fi. And the thing that you were saying about how it doesn't map to like what we can see always sort of depresses me on these images because I could never drive a spaceship to this spot and look at this. Like I always wonder that of like, how far would I have to go to get this view on a thing? I want people to do the math on that aren't me because I couldn't do that math, but like, where would I need to be to see this kind of image?
For that like frame of reference,
Like to
for that
look out the
perfect
window and
view
see that.
for your eye.
Yeah, I just want to know,
Mm.
But this one's wild. Let me zoom in on this sucker.
That's
Give
what
me
I
a
got
second
on
while
my
my
phone.
computer blows apart. But
That's the one I picked.
that's a good lock
for
screen.
the phone one.
Oh, that's cool. Oh.
All the detail
Yeah.
on these dust clouds are
Yeah.
so good.
It's like, because Hubble sees the same thing. Sorry, Hubble. We still love you. And it looks like a smooth, surface. But then when JWST is looking at it, it's like it all just gets crumbly. Like you have this like crumbly.
You turned up the
cloud
definition
with
slider in Lightroom to like get all that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and it just also looks like something you could dive into, right?
Yeah, because that's like, so this is a story that happens a lot in space, because I'm remembering now this happened to us on Mars pretty recently, right? So we had in Gale Crater, there's like that ridge called Vera Rubin Ridge, and from orbit they saw a whole bunch of iron from it, right? So like just glowed in the spectrum of iron, like there's iron everywhere in this thing. And then they went there with the rover and they like drilled and they're like, there's not really any iron here. What's going on? And it just happened that there were like really high concentrations of iron in like little spots all over. But the resolution of the orbiter was so low, it was averaging it all out into one big mushy iron pancake, And so this is kind of reminding me of that. It's just like Hubble saw these beautiful, round, cloudy things, and then JWST looked a little closer and said, no, these are really sharp and rigid, and your resolution was just averaging them out. Like that's like, I don't know, it's such a good analog for how all space science works. Like we learn something, we make an assumption, but it's all based on the data, and the more you get, the more those change, right? It's wild to me. I love that about space science.
Yeah, I think that's why it's important to do the ground truthing, especially of data from orbit, which is what you were just talking about with Mars. Is we can make a lot of assumptions about what we see from orbit, but then once there's really no substitute for having a rover on the ground. You learn surprising things.
Yeah, so we have to get Anthony's spaceship here. Then.
Yeah,
I need to drive to see this view. That's all. I would like to drive there.
When they put that one up on Tuesday, because I was at Goddard Space Flight Center in the big room, very big crowded room full of VIPs and scientists and reporters and NASA social, and the cheerleaders were there at the beginning.
Yeah, we need to talk about that.
I was like, it is too early and I'm not caffeinated enough and this just needs to stop. But like, this image got a lot of a very audible crowd reaction because you can see the two stars in the middle, right? Like they'd known it was a binary star, but couldn't see that second star except in this view. And so you can see that second star. And then, there's that galaxy, the Edge-on Galaxy that's up in the upper left corner. And I think there's actually a spiral galaxy below it too. But the Edge-on Galaxy caught a lot of attention as well. Maybe that's not a spiral below it, I can't tell.
Well, this one, it's weird. So the MIRI images are a little bit lower res than when they do the full near images. So if I load up every pixel, I think this is the one you're talking about here. Well, there's two actually. There's one here.
Yeah, and
one here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And then the
Galaxy
Edge-on one up above. Yeah. It's just when I was making bets about what the images were going to be of, what the targets were, I was like, it's going to be a deep field. And one of my astronomer friends said, well, every single one of these is going to be a deep field, so you win. Because even when they're imaging a particular object, it's like the telescope is so sharp that you get all of the galaxies in the background too. Yeah.
There is
So
no
I
depth
won.
of field to these images. It's not like you can just
Yeah.
focus in on 300 light years away. You're gonna get the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's one aspect we should talk about too. The difference in the exposure times essentially for all these images compared to the Hubble images that we're comparing to, where the Hubble deep field was 10 days, I think, and these were like a couple hours or something.
Yeah, like 12 hours, I think I read.
That's got
Yeah.
crazy implications, not only for what the telescope can do, but like how much more it can do with a particular image in terms of exposing an image for the same amount of time that Hubble does, but how much more it can do because it doesn't need to expose for that much longer, right? It can fit more observations into a similar time. So,
Yeah, productivity, right?
I don't know if Nadia, you talked to anyone about the upcoming observations and like productivity of like how quickly do they switch between targets? Do you apply for a certain amount of time, observation time, in a particular target, and what's like the general range of that?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what happens. When people submit proposals, they have a particular amount of observing time that they want, and then the committee gets to decide how much observing time they actually get. And so if you look at all of the first year of observations are available online. The proposals are online. You can read them. There's a layperson summary too for I think all of them. But you can sort them by the amount of telescope observing time that they get. And so some of them are, I think the biggest one is more than 100 hours. And then all the way down to, a very short observation. So yeah, and the order in which they're being done is a mystery, at least as far as I know. We don't have that information yet, but we'll find out. I'm not a patient person. I hate waiting. And so I'm like, just be patient and wait.
I mean, they're also probably
it's
still
hard.
figuring it out, right? Like Jake was saying about how every couple of months when the launch window would change, that's going to change what they could get done at the beginning because you're going to be in a different spot of space. So I imagine balancing, okay, I know that target's on our observation list, but we're going to lose these other 3 in the next 3 weeks. So let's do those first and get to you when we can. Like that is, I don't envy the scheduling there.
I mean, theoretically, you should have a list of a whole year, like in order, and then as you pass it, you just move it to the bottom of the list, right? And then you just start wherever
come back around,
because it's going to be in the same order every time because you're always just going around the Earth or around the Sun at the same thing, right? So,
I guess that's fairly predictable.
Yeah,
universe is not moving that
fast. Space operations is just like it's such a fun problem. Like I don't know, it's like really interesting. These weird variables that just get thrown into your plan just based on bizarre orbital mechanics and things like that. So
my favorite one in that sphere was the fact that the moon was going to get in the way during the launch window that opened up in late December, and so there was like a week in January when they couldn't launch the telescope because the moon would be in the wrong place.
They would have hit the moon on the way by. Yeah,
it wasn't going to hit the moon. I think they're
that we know
of avoidance for that, but yeah, that we know of. But the moon's gravity would have perturbed it enough so that they would have had to spend more fuel than they wanted to getting it back onto trajectory. So that was just like a big no-go, which I kind of loved. I thought that was a very interesting fun fact.
And plus, then Arianespace wouldn't be able to brag about all the lifetime they gave it, right? All the extra lifetime.
The most perfect launch ever, apparently.
Yeah. We've never done a better job than this.
Yeah.
Well, okay, but they did start talking about how they have 20 years of fuel on this thing, right? So, what do we make of that timeline? Does that seem like what you were expecting? Is that more than you thought they would end up with? How did that come in for you? Nobody has opinions on it.
We lost her. I think
she might have
She might be gone. Yeah, she was so unimpressed with that question.
It defied all of my expectations.
Yeah, it defied all. Yeah, no, I thought that was really funny. I mean, the way they bragged about it was like so over the top. But I don't know. I guess you take your wins when you can, right?
I think she's coming back.
Yeah, I don't know about the 20 years though. I feel like it's like tempting fate a little bit.
Like saying it, putting it out, putting it right out there.
Just maybe they just should say like we gave it maybe you should talk about how much margin you gave it rather than, but then I don't know, a person can't interpret that, right? A lay person. So
Do you think that means there's more than 20 years? Is that what you're saying? That like
maybe, I don't know. Like I don't think they're gonna lie. They're just giving you the best case scenario that, I don't know, because you got to balance it with, if something goes wrong, then you just sound like an idiot, right? So
yeah, or this early on, if you don't know like exactly what certain observations are going to cost you in terms of oh, I think we have Nadia back. Are you back? Hello.
I'm back.
We're
I'm
back.
sorry. Our power it went out because there is actually a downpour happening outside.
Oh,
So yeah, fingers crossed that I stay on. Let me get this light back on. Oh God, that's so bright. That's my face.
We're emulating NASA's live streaming.
Yeah, you're the Canadian Space Agency. That's your role.
We saw you once and you never came back. No one even mentioned you ever again.
Yeah,
your internet was being piped through Rogers Telecom. So
wait, so was this? They were the one that did the spectroscopy, right? Was that the one they were kicking to Canada for?
It was
the exoplanet,
the exoplanet.
Yeah, the exoplanet one.
Yeah.
All right, I do have it, but I just have some general. Well, number one, I'm not the expert in any of the things we're about to talk about today, but I feel like they were really hyping up. We've got some images of an exoplanet, right? And everyone, and I'm like not the layman when it comes to listening to these live streams, but I feel like when they put up a graph, everyone that was watching was like, "Oh, it's not like a picture. It's not a picture of a planet. I was waiting to see a picture of the planet." So I felt like it was weird that they made this one second, and it was weird the way that they introed it. But you two probably know a lot more about why this graph is extremely cool. So please help enlighten me, the disappointed layman.
Well, I think they'd made it pretty clear that it was going to be a spectrum of an exoplanet beforehand. But maybe it's just not entirely clear what that means. You know, how is a spectrum different from an image? Although when this one was shown in the room, people were really psyched about it too. And I think it's because it demonstrates that the telescope is capable of making this kind of observation. And exoplanets are a huge focus of observations, at least in the first year, which is also interesting because when the telescope was designed, exoplanets were not one of its primary targets. And now it's become a field that's actually commanding a fair, proportion of the telescope's observing time. And so proving that it could make this measurement, I think, is a really important thing.
Do you know why that was? Like, why did they not think about exoplanets at the time they designed it? Was it just because we didn't have that many? Like, because that was before.
It was the 90s, man.
Right?
Yeah. It's like the field wasn't that mature yet. The first planet found orbiting a sun-like star was found in 1995. And then a couple years earlier, there were planets found around a pulsar, which everybody forgets, but shouldn't. And now I feel like if you look at the number of exoplanets that have been discovered per year, it's an exponential curve. And so it's only really been in the last decade that we've had these like handfuls of planets just like falling out of the sky. So now I think, the field is quite mature and people are starting to be able to ask the questions that they want to ask about the types of planets that we can observe with this telescope. So I think that was part of it.
So how does this level of accuracy and sensitivity for this kind of observation, like, then what? What do we get out of that? What else are we going to learn about exoplanets that we can't right now with the conjectures we can make?
So this particular observation, I was kind of like, cool. So we know there's water vapor in this atmosphere. It's steamy. It's a type of planet that we don't have in our own solar system, which is always interesting. Look at worlds that are totally alien that we don't see close to home. But I think what people are really excited about with this telescope is looking at the smaller planets, the terrestrial worlds that could be Earth-like in many ways, and seeing what we can tease out of their atmospheres, what kinds of molecules are in there. I would say in the year leading up to launch, there was a lot of hype about the telescope's ability to maybe find biosignatures or signs of life in exoplanet atmospheres. And I think that's a little bit overhyped because that kind of measurement takes a very long time and it's tricky. And the scientists I spoke with were like, yeah, like maybe. But what's actually going to be really cool is that we can take a census of exoplanet atmospheres and learn more about what's in them in general. And I think that's still valuable.
Yeah, that's the first thing that came to mind for me, because like if your telescope's limited to your own solar system, it's like, okay, we have like, you know, this couple dozen like large bodies that we can look at and get some spectra on, but like they're all pretty different. And you know, if you check out Neptune's, you know, atmospheric contents, you can't make a lot of derivations about what's going on Mercury with that, you know, like they're tough to do that way. But now we can turn this to all 4,000 of those Kepler targets and get some like good bulk data on what's happening, right?
And Kepler targets, yeah, but Tess is up there just putting in some work too. So
yeah, all those kind of things, right? So yeah, it's the volume of
yeah,
data
we have to throw love
important.
to Tess too. Yeah, we have to love Tess, we have to love Hubble, we have to love everybody in the sky right now. Even though this telescope is working.
We're all one big telescope family. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I finally got
What's
the
the
Carina Nebula image to load, if you wanted to see that. I literally clicked on it like minutes ago in preview here, and it finally came up because
Did you have like the 20,000 pixel one
it's
loaded there?
enormous. Yeah. Should look, what's the exact size? It is 14,000 pixels across 300 pixels per inch. So there you go. But yeah,
Good thing we're broadcasting this in 1080p.
Hey man, I could downres this to 720 if you want to do your best NASA for sure.
NASA.
So this image is absolutely gorgeous in every way.
Yeah.
And I would also like to pull up this contextual tweet that I saw from Ben Brockert earlier, who posted the image of the nebula and then its context in the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's like, what? Yeah. To see how little of the entire nebula we're seeing is awesome.
Wow.
It's like, please get on that stitching of the entire panorama.
Well, and isn't like the main one, isn't that already like 10 light years across or something? Like it's pretty big,
even,
isn't it?
I think it's even bigger. Oh, the one that we're looking at, you mean?
No,
Like the image?
the actual Carina one. I thought they were saying something like, you know, like they're talking about them like their peaks, their mountains, whatever.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
were like
Oh, yeah, those are like
8 light
7
years
or...
high
Yeah,
or
totally.
something.
So the
Yeah.
whole thing is just like unimaginably
Enormous.
large.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
look at that. Like the image I just pulled up was 14,000 pixels. This thing would... like there aren't enough pixels for this.
That's the wild thing about nebulas for me, is that like they're so vast that if you were in them you wouldn't see them, right? Like they're so spread out that you can only see them from this far away. It's like the forest for the trees kind of situation, but for nebulas, right?
Yeah. It's like Olympus Mons on Mars. Like you would never notice it because it's so big. And you know, yeah.
Can't see the nebula for the gas.
Keep trying.
Yeah. I love that nebula picture. It's so cool. I think that was my favorite.
Yeah, it's really beautiful.
All right, I've got a prompt for us. Think of your favorite Hubble images. When were those captured and released? Like, right off the bat, or were they, years into Hubble's operations? Like, I'm trying to just give us some context here that these images were like immediately catapulted into pop culture. Coldplay had them in their concert that night or whatever. I think I have that tweet somewhere.
Yeah.
Like they were immediately pop culture, right? But
Yeah.
the Hubble image is like, oh, that's loud. I don't know if anyone else can hear that but me, but it was loud Coldplay. Getting content ID'd all over the place on this. I guess my point is like, the best images are definitely not these images, which is even more exciting that these are great images and the best ones are like we don't even thought of yet.
Yeah. And it's also interesting because like, so they, these get released today in 2022 and we have all this like social media power to distribute them very quickly, very far. and Hubble didn't have that,
Yeah.
right? Like when they dropped the hot new astrophysics picture in 1996 or something, like
Took a couple of scholastic printing cycles before like Pillars of Creation was
and,
on everyone's textbook.
Maybe CBS showed it, but then it was just on your screen, and then it was gone, and you couldn't do anything with it, right? So
Couldn't look it up again. Yeah.
So I wonder if like more of the JWST ones will become like those iconic images, or will it just be like so much data that we'll just like, I can't do it anymore. Like,
also, Bradley makes a great point. Hubble sucked when we launched it. I've kind of forgot about the fact that we blew it on that one.
That was so broken. So broken. Yeah. So bad.
Yeah. Until
like
Grunsfeld went up there and fixed it.
Grunsfeld and the Hubble huggers. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like people like to complain about how much JWST cost, but Hubble with all of the repair missions was like not that different.
Yeah,
probably.
a couple shuttle flight here and there.
Yeah. They did 4, I think, right? 4 shuttle flights, right?
5. I think 5, right?
5 if you count.
I don't know the actual
Is there 5 repairs? Because they launched on one too, right? I guess.
Oh, yeah.
But
I'll have to do the math again.
Yeah.
But I mean, right there, you're up to like JWST baseline cost estimates, on just shuttle flights alone. So.
Yeah. It's not insignificant. Yeah. It's I mean, thank goodness JWST worked, because it's not like we can send anyone out there to fix it. Right? Like,
see, this is back to my main thesis, though. I think we talked about this, Jake, on the show right after it launched. We had Jeff Faust on, and I brought up this, and he had no reaction to this. So Nadia, maybe you will. I was my like, let me salvage a good situation from a bad situation. Thought on JWST not working was, there has never been a greater prompt for the human spaceflight program to rise to a challenge that our $10 billion telescope doesn't work and we need a human to go save it. It would have been like the greatest, writing prompt for the human spaceflight program of all time. We would have, it would solve Jake's main problem of why are we doing anything, flying humans into space. Got a great why for you. It would have been like, we definitely would have done it. I'm going to go to my grave saying this. We definitely would have fixed JWST if it was broken.
I wonder if I agree that we definitely would have fixed it.
You think we would have just let
it
sail off into heliospace and just like, let it go free? I'd be like, meh.
I could totally see this being like the opening couple of scenes of a sci-fi movie where it's like something big is coming and we kind of know what it is, but we need a very sharp telescope to see it. And JWST is out there, but it's broken. And so, everybody gets together and figures out how to send humans there in like 2 months or something super unrealistic. I could totally see that being like a fiction plot. But
if anyone's watching in Hollywood, us 3 are available. We can clear some schedules off. We can make this happen. No problem.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting to think about. Even now, when it first launched, there were discussions about making it serviceable, with the somewhat surprising statement that servicing the observatory was going to be a priority. And now that we know it has 20 years of gas in the tank, I kind of wonder, because of that lifetime, is servicing still going to be a priority? Because it's already got 2 decades, assuming it doesn't just get pummeled by micrometeorites, as we've seen in the last couple of weeks. So yeah.
Yikes. Yeah, that one kind of got my heart a little bit when I read that.
Yeah.
In terms of servicing, I feel like I don't know enough exactly about what people meant by that, right? Because a lot of people are just like, let's put a grappling hook or a docking port or something on it, thinking in like a Kerbal Space Program, like pick a part out and click it on there, right? But Hubble had like the removable instrument palettes that they could replace things with. So, and that helped it. Hubble's very old. It got upgraded with different instruments through time that kept it relevant. And it still looks like crap compared to the web photos, right? So unless you're able to go up and replace like the instrument package, is refueling even worth it at 20 years? Knowing that in 20 years we'll have 20 years better optics and better sensors and better instrumentation.
Yeah, it's a valid question. I mean, what they were talking about with servicing was just refueling, as far as I know. because it wasn't a conversation that was had very publicly, and it's hard to find documentation. I know because I and a number of other reporters have tried to find documents about what that actually means. So my guess, an educated guess, but still a guess, is that it is just looking at refueling. And then, I mean, I hope, well, that's too optimistic. I was going to say, I hope at that point that we'll have like the next, great observatory that's working and already in space, but that's going to be another.
Oh yeah. Who's in the hot seat now? WFirst? Yeah. Roman? Like who's gonna catch all the shit from Astro Twitter at this point?
Yeah, so I think
Still
it's Roman. Yeah. Yeah. So I think Roman is up next, and then whatever great observatory comes out of the Astro 2020 Decadal Survey, which they left kind of vague. But I think they were looking at a timeline of like the 2040s or 50s for launching that, and I just thought, like, I'm not going to be doing this job anymore. Like, I'm older than Hubble. Hubble was really old. I'm older than Hubble. Like, hopefully I'm retired at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, I would love to continue to be covering this, but it's like that's a while. A while in the future.
Yeah, this doesn't happen every day, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think if you could refuel it, even if you didn't have the instruments upgraded, I think it'd still be worth it. Because, like, let's say you could refuel it for, like, I don't know, $200 million. Like, just some sort of robotic fuel tank that goes up there, grapples it, sticks the thing in. We're getting good at that now. We're working on that, right?
It's almost like the company that built this thing has an entire company devoted to attaching other satellite buses to other satellites.
Imagine that. Imagine that. So, I mean, if you ask me, if you could spend $200 million to zoom down to the surface, maybe this is 200 million is the wrong number, but if you could spend 5% of Opportunity Rover's budget to get it back online for another 10 years, of course I do it, even if the cameras are terrible compared to Perseverance, right? So, like, if you could spend like $5-10 million to get Opportunity rolling again, no. Nadia says no. She's not interested in that.
No. No, my favorite shtick to get on is that Mars is a super boring planet and we should just like go somewhere interesting.
I thought you were going to be like, no, Opportunity sucked. Spirit was great. Revive Spirit.
Yeah.
Opportunity's driving on like one less wheel. Spirit's just stuck there in pretty new condition,
Opportunity's like doing
pick your
Spirit
favorite
has less
thing,
miles on it.
If you could spend $100 million to get Cassini back for 10 years.
Go salvage it out of the Saturn atmosphere. Yeah.
Like, of course you would, right? So it's it's such a good return, even if you cannot upgrade the instruments. But yeah, anyway,
I would do that. I would do that with Cassini.
Yeah.
Mars, no.
All right, well, we'll have a Mars discussion later, Nadia, when we're not on the air, and I can get a little more angry about it. But
oh no, are those fighting words?
Yeah.
So okay, I have another. I'm thinking more about this now. So, talking about servicing it, because I'm making some parallels. Because the first thing I'm having, bear with me, I'm like having realizations on air right now. But so Hubble was serviceable, and not just like with a mounting point, like you said, Anthony. It had like human removable trays. You could literally just like slide these things.
Had
out
handles
and
on things. Yeah.
So like it was designed from the beginning to be serviceable by people. And now I'm also remembering that Hubble was like a leftover spy satellite, right? It's like one of those
not leftover. It had economies of scale to it.
Yes. So.
Well, I just want to make it clear because it was contracted different than it was originally supposed to be a 3-meter mirror, and then a couple years down the line they're like, what do you think about a 2.4-meter mirror? Because it would be a little cheaper because we have the ability to produce them at a higher rate than you would expect.
Was there not actual leftover parts though as well? Because I know that's true, but it wasn't there.
That
also,
one was
like
Roman was an NRO mirror that they had.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's like
I
think a handshake agreement that they will never point it at Earth.
Gotcha. So carrying on though, so that's fine. But isn't there also now? We're still early in JWST's life, but isn't it also got a same kind of like top secret military lineage because it's made by Northrop Grumman, and like this whole foldable telescope thing it seems like way crazier than it actually ended up being executed. It's almost like maybe they've done this before or something like that, right? Like, this went pretty smoothly considering there was all these...
The segmented mirror that they've aligned to like microscopic precision.
Yeah. So isn't there like some... and maybe you know this better than I do, but wasn't there already a connection with the military for JWST as well? Wasn't some of this tech...
I think it's suspected. Yeah.
Suspected. We won't know because it's all going to be...
We'll never know. Well, the back of the mirrors were classified. So...
Right.
They wouldn't classify that unless...
And I wonder, Nadia, if this is why you can't get answers about some of the documentation because it's all still relevant.
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
And then I'm wondering, is this thing actually serviceable in that they already know how to do it and it's all built in, right?
Oh, like somebody called them and were like, you should put a grappling hook on that thing, man. Like,
and Northrop's like,
yeah,
it's all good. It's all good. We got it. Don't worry about it.
We got it. Yeah. I have no information on any of that. I feel like I've missed an entire chapter in the JWST book that I should have read for homework.
I think I only know the like you can't take a picture of the back of the mirrors thing, but everything beyond that is suspected.
I mean, I feel like the deployment was so tense that they obviously haven't done anything of that scale before. I'm saying obviously, but probably. And it was just such an audacious attempt at, building a giant telescope in space to say, we're going to do this thing. It has 344 single points of failure after launch, after it rides a controlled bomb into space. And then there's still 344 ways that this thing could fail, just with one thing going wrong. It's like, I don't know. It didn't come across to me as the kind of thing that they'd done before, at least not on that scale.
Interesting.
But I don't have any insider information, or really any information, it turns out, at all. So
I'm just wearing a tinfoil hat when I say that, so you can throw it out there.
Okay.
Well, Jake,
but Northrop Grumman is my
week,
tinfoil hat source nowadays. So
they got a lot of good ones, man. Maybe Zuma was a subscale JWST.
Zuma was the tech demonstrator, so yeah.
The deployer was actually one of the 344 things that they were trying to get some flight heritage on.
Yeah,
They fixed it in time for the launch.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Jake, this whole week did validate your thesis on SLS, I would like to say, just to tie this in a nice knot. Your thesis is if SLS was flying a lot, no one would care how much it costs. I haven't heard a damn thing about how much JWST costs. Nothing.
Nope.
Nobody cares about the fasteners that they shook loose during that one vibration test, or the time that the vacuum chamber leaked because it rained a lot in Texas. Nobody cared about any of that this week at all.
Yeah. In retail sales, there's an expression that's revenue hides all sins, right? So you can run a crappy business. If people are buying stuff, then nobody cares. Like, nobody cares how bad you are. That's kind of how I'm seeing it.
It's also, nobody cares about the clamp that almost dropped the telescope when it was in Peru.
That's right.
We were like, did you drop it? Like, the release was so vague. Everybody was like, oh.
We dropped it, but not a lot. Like, it's not a lot.
Yeah,
we didn't drop it a lot. We kind of caught it. We put our foot under it, and it didn't hit that hard.
It was on the carpet. It was okay.
It was a gentle bump. Like, it's fine.
It was within the margin of how much Ariane shakes, so it was okay.
Yeah, that was, oh gosh. Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is interesting. This is, I don't know. This is a cool telescope. I'm really excited that this is operational now. Like, Nadia, is there anything we're missing in terms of this release that any good stories you wanted to tell? I mean, you were there covering and stuff, but anything we're missing in terms of good stuff we should be talking about here?
Well, I think we missed the last picture.
We did.
So,
we did. We missed the picture.
I don't know if you've got that.
I got it. Oh, I got it.
There we go. Yeah.
Stephan's Quintet.
Yeah. I mean, this one was super cool. It was actually, I guess my story is, it was really fun being at Goddard for the release. It was definitely a circus. In general, it's not my favorite way to cover news, is to be smack in the middle of a circus, but it felt like the right place to be.
In the middle of the
And it
cheerleaders.
was,
Oh yeah, tell us about the cheerleaders. Give us some first person perspective on these. No comment. No comment.
Great perspective.
they had the press come in early, and so we did not have to walk through the gauntlet of cheerleaders, but at some point it became obvious that there was a lot of noise coming from outside the auditorium, and I was just breathing deeply. It was an interesting phenomenon. I always feel like, there have been some celebrations of spacecraft achievement, even fairly recently, where there's like a weird demonstration of patriotism or something with a lot of American flag waving. I'm really glad they didn't do that here. They couldn't, because it's an international mission. But I always feel like there's some kind of bizarre little, cheering squad that shows up. It's kind of cute, but I don't really know what to make of it. They were loud. Like, I'm trying to be very diplomatic here.
Strong stance, gold pom-poms. Yeah.
They were loud and very, very genuinely excited about what they were doing. So, yay.
Good for them. They're living their best life. Their best cheerleading life. Yeah.
I am curious to see what like the rollout of imagery and data is from here forward. We don't have any idea what that's going to be like yet. So,
no.
Did we get our Jupiter pick today? That's what I'm mad about.
I did see a Jupiter pick. But it wasn't a good one. There was like a
there was one that came out early, right? It was like from the paper, but this one.
Like these ones.
But I thought there was going to be like a nicer.
So we'd heard they were
nice
not
pick,
going to be
Jake.
releasing. I don't hate on Jupiter. Not everybody can look beautiful all the time. But we'd heard
Not
they
everyone
were
can be
not
Mars.
going to
I get it.
Canceled. That's it. Power's going out again. No, they said there wasn't going to be a processed Jupiter release today. I don't actually know what the cadence of releasing additional imagery is that has been processed. I asked that question and did not get an answer. So, the answer I got was we need a little bit of time between. People need a break between this first image dump and the next. And I'm personally like, I don't need a break. I want to see what else you have. Like, I know.
Set up an Instagram account.
I know there are more images in the pipeline that have already been processed because you've talked to me about them without telling me what they are or what they look like, except that they're amazing. So, don't keep me waiting. But that's just me.
Okay.
I'm not a patient person.
Well, if the project managers are watching, get it together. We want to see our Jupiter pics.
Nadia, while you're waiting for more imagery, what else are you working on if people do not partake in the Nadia universe? What are they missing?
Ooh, what else am I working on? We're spinning up a story about SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, in a context that's kind of new and maybe surprising. So I'm psyched about that. Mulling over a story about how to discover life as we don't know it, which is one of the questions that kind of keeps me up at night.
That's something that's like generally in your lineage, or just
Question in the family? Yeah.
Vaguely in the lineage, yes. Yeah. So looking for life beyond Earth, I think, is kind of where my brain is now, and thank goodness, because it's a fun place to be.
And they can check out your dog on Twitter.
Oh
right?
My gosh, yes. I thought she was going to be right here. Yeah, my Twitter account needs to be a lot more professional than it is. Mostly just like dogs and champagne.
Relevant to our interests. So
yes,
yeah, we like it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Good. Well, I'm glad.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's the show. I guess we're at an hour. This went really quickly. Like, we got wrapped up in galaxy pics. So we got galaxy brain now.
Okay. Yeah. Galaxy brain. Yeah. It's not as bad as it sounds.
Oh man.
Is it treatable?
Anthony, Anthony, what are you working on this week?
Boy, I don't know yet. I don't know. I've been.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't know what's going on yet.
Okay.
There's like some.
Okay.
The whole Russia situation is really weird still.
Yeah.
The rabble
super
rousing
weird
of
this week.
Rogozin as we're still trying to like trade seats, and I'm like, why are we still doing that? It doesn't seem that important. I don't
With
know.
weird
Maybe
flag
something with
waving
that.
and-
Yeah, it's just super
Yeah.
weird. The whole situation.
Maybe a little
is
bit
bummer.
about the Artemis Accords and our new favorite signatory.
Yeah, a real humdinger coming in hot off the press that Saudi Arabia signed on. That's a situation too.
Wow.
So, yeah, that'll probably make it into the show. I'm thinking. I don't know, man. Have you, any particular interviews cooking on your end, or didn't is there schedule changes?
Yeah. Well, so I put out an episode this week on Mercury and Bepi Colombo because we just had the flyby. So I got to talk to one of the plasma physicists working on that, which was super cool. She
Great
was a
picks.
blast. She was really
Great picks
Yeah.
from the flyby.
yeah. It's been a good show. So this was really fun. And then I'm working on the next thing. So I really wanted to talk about Psyche on the show, but NASA's hush hush right now until that review is all done on the delay. So they're not being super forward with information just yet. So you have to wait a little longer for that one, I think.
Maybe. Hopefully.
Maybe.
Hopefully.
Maybe the review will be quick. Maybe it'll be really obvious.
I feel like that should be a pretty
Yeah, I
obvious
was
report.
looking forward to that mission. Yeah. I hope it goes, because I was super psyched to see the extremely metal asteroid.
Super psyched.
Like, so metal.
Super
Super
psyched.
psyched.
Indeed.
Super
Yeah.
psyched. Jake, Off-Nominal is off next week. This is one of our 2 summer weeks off. But the week after,
Yep.
Christian Davenport will be with me. You won't be,
Oh, cool.
but there should be some fun things happening.
Yeah, I'll be traveling again. It's a little bit of a busy summer for me. So, but yeah, it's gonna be really cool. We're taking a week off. We've never done that before, but it's summer. All of you should be hanging out with your family and going to barbecues and stuff. So that's what we're gonna do.
Yeah, for sure. Nadia, thanks again for hanging out with us. We will have you
Yeah,
back
thank you.
as soon as there's more
Please
JWST
do.
imagery, because it might be a while apparently, or maybe next week. So
Yeah.
Anytime.
We'll find out.
I'm happy to come back. Yeah.
We'll bring you on for the next Mastcam Z drop. It'll be really good.
that's a great idea. We're gonna look at all great Mars pics and have a debate about whether or not they're cool looking. I will moderate.
Yeah.
Because as you know,
please
Jake,
have
there
me
are
on for
certain
that.
deserts in the world that completely bore me. So, if it's anything like the Mojave, I will be desperately bored during that show, and Nadia will be correct. If it's something more like the Sonoran Desert, I will be more excited. So,
All right. Well, we'll have to find
let's
out.
schedule that.
Anytime.
That sounds fun.
Yeah. Anytime.
All right, see you later, everybody.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.